in today's tutorial or in today's class, I am going to be showing you how to take body measurements on a client, on a model, or on anybody you're going to be sewing for. There are ways which you ask this person to stand that you might not be worrying about since you're actually doing that on yourself. And we're going to be using this mannequin as our model. So let's get right into it if that is what you're interested in. The very first measurement we're going to be taking is the shoulder measurement. So this is the shoulder measurement, and I told you the shoulder is actually between these points right here. Okay, I hope you can see what I am showing you. So for the shoulder, actually this is the underarm. Okay, so rightly above the underarm is where you're going to be taking your shoulder measurement, right? So from this place here on top, I'm going to be placing my tape. So now this is why I need to show you how to take for your client. Okay, so when you're taking this measurement, you do not expect your client to feel uncomfortable in any way. So you're going to make sure to position yourself so that your client will feel very comfortable while you're taking the measurement. So I'm going to be taking my shoulder measurement, or this person's shoulder measurement, standing at their back, okay, instead of their front. So you cannot stand in front of them and take their measurement like so. This is very uncomfortable. Let's assume that this back point is over this other side, okay? So it is not advisable for you to actually stand like this and take your client's measurement from the back. This is not comfortable, and besides, you cannot see what you're doing. So the right way of taking this measurement is to actually stand at the back of your client, okay? So this is it. From this point right here, I'm going to be placing this measurement. So for this particular model, okay, what I have here as the shoulder is 13.5. okay, so I'll just call it 14, right? So this is 14 for me. So that is what this model has. Okay, so the next measurement I'm going to be taking is, of course, shoulder to bust. From this point right here, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to my half length, and shoulder to the hip, of course, okay? By taking this measurement, right, your shoulder to your bust, your shoulder to your under bust, your shoulder to your half length, you are not advised to stand in front of the client like so. This way it is going to make your clients come and uncomfortable. So it is advisable for you to actually stand by your client's side and make sure that this your bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to half length measurement that you're going to be taking will be at the side in which you're standing. So at this point, I am going to be placing my tape at this point right here. This is the center of the neck, almost after the neck line right here. I'm going to be placing my tape here on my client, standing by the side and not standing in front of my client, so that they won't be uncomfortable, and then I would place my tape as so, okay? So this is my shoulder to my bust point. Shoulder to my bust point, I got 9.5 here. So I could just go ahead and stretch this over as so. Now this is the under bust point right here. So on the bust point, or you could just, since you're measuring on a client, you don't need to hold the tape on their nipple. It depends on the client actually. So I could just go ahead and do this instead, okay? So this is where my under bust measurement stopped. So basically I'm going to be taking 12.75 and then go ahead here, hold this point right here and stretch it over to where I have my half length. So my half length here is going to be at 17, okay? So this is my half length right here, and then you're going to go ahead and write that down. Now after taking the shoulder to the bust point, the shoulder to the under bust, and that of the half length, I am going to go ahead and take the round bust measurement, okay? So for the round bust measurement, like I would always say, endeavor to make sure that you do not stand in front of the client. That way you cease from actually making your client feel uncomfortable, okay? So you stand by the side right here and place your tape around the bust line as so. So I'm at the side here and I am taking my measurement. I do not need to come to the front to make sure that I take the measurement, okay? There's something I want to show you when taking the measurement on your bust line. So make sure that as you're taking this measurement as so, make sure that your tape is on this part, okay? Make sure that your tape is adjacent, the same line with that of your bust point, okay? So this tape right here has to synchronize with this bust line down here. Do not make a mistake of actually bringing your tape down here when you're going up as so, because this part will actually be matching with the under bust, not the chest line. If you can see the mannequin right here, this part gets slimmer and this part is actually fatter. So if you make a mistake of actually placing your tape down here while measuring your bust line, you would have to miss some measurements right here. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Alright, so let's get to measuring our under bust on our client. To stand on the side of my clients, just like I did for my bust point, and I'm going to be placing my tape as so. Now, always endeavor to make sure that one finger is in between your tape and that of your client's skin, okay? So that you won't have too tight fitting when you're wearing the dress. So this is it. So this is basically how it is going to be. So sorry, this particular thing is not like the client's body, okay? It's slippery, so that's why it's like that. So I'm going to make sure that I try to stay on my under bust. So this is how it is going to be. And also make sure that you observe the same thing I said for the bust. Make sure that the same place that you're placing your tape on the under bust is where your tape is going to, turn to when you're marking from the back. So this is what I mean. I'm going to still illustrate in case you do not understand. So this is my under bust and this is where my under bust is. You have to make sure that your tape here matches this point right here. You cannot be having your under bust here and then your tape is coming down as so. It is very wrong because here and here are not the same thing. I hope you understand up to that point. So now after that, I'm going to be taking my half length measurement, okay? So when I was teaching you in the last class, I told you that to get the very exact point in which you can take your half length is 2 inches above your navel point. So in this is my navel point right here. So I'm going to place my tape here and I would measure it up. So here is exactly where it is going to be. I hope you understand, okay? So always do this to get accurate accurate half length measurement. So if you look at this is like the slimmest part before it gets to that part again that is going to be starting, okay? So this is where your half length is going to be. So if you cannot find this place on your client, try to do that measuring 2 inches above to get that half length. And sometimes some of your clients might actually tell you where they want their half length to start. That is if the dress is actually this dress that you would join, okay, on the half length part. So I'm going to go ahead here and I would be measuring my half length. Now after taking this measurement, we're going to be going down. Now I love to take the half length to the hip, half length to the knee, and half length to the full length. The reason I love to do this is because what if I am making a skirt for my client along the line? What if my client comes for ask for a skirt and they are not clothes and you have their measurement, okay? So I prefer to just take everything all at once so that you can actually make a skirt or a pant for your client if they need it, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and take down from this point the half length to the hip line, okay? So this is the half length to the hip line right here. So how do you know where your hip line is? I said earlier that your hip line is just the center of your butt, okay? So this can actually be standing as your hip line. A little inch above your crotch point could actually be working as your hip line, okay? So maybe that is like 1 inch above your crotch point for some people, and maybe for some people 1.5 inch. Okay, so from this part right here that I have my half length, I am just going to measure up to this point. So from this point right here, I am going to go ahead and I would be taking the hip measurement. Okay, so to take the hip measurement, I will just place my tape just like I did for every other one, and this is actually it. Now there's something I love to do when I'm measuring my client. To take my hip measurement, I prefer to do this. Let me show you, so please just watch carefully and you're going to see what I will be doing right here. So this is my tape right here. So instead of just saying, okay fine, this is my hip, so I'm just going to take the measurement like so, okay, and then this is it. I can decide to drop this down. Okay, the fattest butt, you're making your hip and you're going to include your butt and every other thing around the hip line. Okay, so I would advise you to pull this tape down. While you're pulling your tape down, you release your hand so that the tape could move, right? So the biggest part of your butt is where it's going to be your hip line. So this is going to be 40 for me. I'm going to start again. So this is supposed to be my hip line. But in order to make sure that I do not have loss, okay, I will just go ahead and place my tape around here, and then I would hold onto it as so. Now I would make sure that I start shifting this step down the hip as so. Now as you're doing this, you're making sure that you're measuring the biggest part of the butt so that it won't be tight there. Now I learned this trick when I was doing my upgrade, and it has really helped me. Before now, I was always having issues with tight hip, okay, because my butt got bigger than the dress after measuring the hip and all of that. So having to drag it to the end of this point like so, this is where it is going to stop. After you pass this point as so, this is enough, okay? So when it gets to these down parts like so, you can now take your measurement from there. So that is the best way to actually take your hip measurement. And after that, I am going to be taking the bust span measurement, okay? So this particular part of the measurement is what you use to determine how your bustier is going to be, your corset and all of that, and even your darts, right? So to take that also, I'm going to stand by the side here and I'm going to place my tape over like so. So making sure that my tape starts at this nipple point over to this nipple point. So I'll just place my tape like so, and I am going to measure. So right here I got 6.5 inches. So that is basically my nipple to nipple point. So after that, I will be taking the last measurement for this particular class, which is actually the neck measurement, okay? Now when you're taking the neck measurement, the part that you're going to take is this lower part right here, not this upper part right here. Take this part. If you take from here, you're going to have loss of measurement, loss of inches, okay? So I would stand right here and I would take the measurement as so, making sure that it sits on the biggest side of my neck. And of course I have my neck measurement as so, and that is basically it for taking measurements today on your client, okay? There's so many other measurements that you can take on your own. Looking at the ones I taught you in the taking personal body measurements, you can use that to actually know how to take body measurements too. And also to take your full length, you will actually be taking full length and taking short length, okay? So that actually depends on how you want, or how your client actually wants the dress to be. So you can place your tape on the half length and take it down to where you want it to be, and also the knee. Of course, if you check the other tutorial, you would see that. All right, so this is it for today's tutorial. Thank you very much for watching, and of course, let's see you in the next class. Do not forget, go over, find someone and start measuring today so that you perfect everything, because of course practice makes perfection, and I love my students to always practice whatever they learn so that they would be able to put that into main practice when you have a client. All right, see you in the next class. Bye.